Are there any attendees?
Yeah, we have 13 attendees right now.
We have how many attendees?
13.
Oh, let's get started. The chief is here, the manager's here, the commissioner is here, and who else? And you're here, so let's get started.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to call this town hall to call this town hall to order. Excuse me. For those of you that were in attendance at the last town hall, we understood that was to be a time that we were hoping to hear from the community, and I don't know if we just did not get enough word out because we did not, and I've heard from several people that they just didn't know about that meeting. So this meeting was set to hear from our police chief, Tony DeGusti, to hear his plan for community policing. And we will go through that. And once we're done with that, we will open the floor for questions and comments. And hopefully everyone in the audience would feel free to speak up. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Santa if he would like to have any words before the chief starts tonight.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and our city manager. I really don't. I think the sooner we turn the floor over to the chief as he outlines the steps going forward into a community-based policing model, the better. And that would leave more time for folks in the audience to share their comments and their remarks. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay, you're welcome. And I want to say before we get started that I do plan this to be a drop dead 8:30 stop. So I believe that town halls, we should be able to get all that we need to do in a town hall in 90 minutes. So without any further delay, Chief, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to apologize that my
Good
video
evening.
is not working. I'm not sure what the issue is. Andrew and I have been trying to figure it out, but it just isn't working out. It's probably my computer, my camera, whatever. So we have a lot of participants, so I'm going to try and keep this somewhat brief so everybody gets a chance to talk since we only have a little over an hour left. The basis of our community policing plan is kind of twofold. One is the structural piece of it, and the other is what each one of those pieces is going to do and how it's going to change the philosophy of how we do business. So we've had some issues with personnel in the past. We've gotten to a number where we think that we can start to move some of the work within the police department around. So the first step is going to be an expansion of the Detective Bureau, because right now the patrol officers are doing most of the investigations, which is taking them off of the road and doing the things that we want them to do to interact with the public. So we're going to expand the Detective Bureau to take that burden away from the patrol officers so they can get back to doing some of the things out on the street with the community that they should be doing. The next piece to that, and again, this is going to be a step-by-step approach. We're not going to be able to do everything all the time. When we're comfortable with the structure of the Detective Bureau and that it's operating correctly, we're going to move to what I call the Community Oriented Policing Crime Reduction Unit, which will be a 4-person team that will concentrate on issues within the community and doing community outreach. So it's not quite the community outreach or the community engagement department that the sheriff's office has, but that will be one of the things that they'll be doing is going out in the community and talking to people and addressing the problems that we have right here within our own city. And so that's kind of the differences in the structure of what's going to happen. So the philosophy is going to change a little bit too. The traditional way of policing has been to kind of tally up totals. So how many arrests did you make? How many tickets did you write? How many field contacts did you have? Those kinds of things are what traditionally police departments have calculated as productivity, if you will. Are officers out there doing their job? So we're going to try and think about it in a different way. Instead of trying to figure out how many arrests we've made, we're going to try and track what a reduction in crime is by trying to solve problems that don't necessarily need arrests. So we all know that there are some serious issues with drugs and addiction and some mental health behaviors. So we've been doing training on those kinds of things, and we're looking at programs like FAN, which is Families Against Narcotics, to have a way to deal with people who are having overdose issues without putting them into the system and getting them treatment and help rather than putting them in the criminal justice system. So that's just kind of a basic overview of some of the things that we're thinking about and the direction that we want to go in and how we're going to get there. Like I said, I wanted to kind of keep this. I'm anxious to hear what the community has to say. I talked a lot last time. I'd like to do a lot of listening this time.
No, you didn't. Stop, please.
So I'd be open to any questions that anyone had, or any comments or expectations that they would like to see.
Mayor, would you like me to begin calling on people in the attendees list?
If the if the police chief is done presenting, yes. And if you heard me make a comment, that was the other phone, someone on the other phone that I needed to speak to. So I'm sorry about that. So did you finish, Chief?
Yeah, that's the basic gist of what we're talking about. I'd like to be able to hear what the community has to say at this point. There's, I think, 14 people on, or 15, and a couple of hands up. I'd love to hear what they have to say.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, Andrew, please.
The first individual with their hand raised is Michelle Barney. I'll allow them to speak now. Miss Barney, you'll have to unmute yourself.
There it is. Thank you. Okay. I would like to know, are there spaces for more people on this committee? I would like to work with you people, and I don't know how to go about it. I live in Chittister Place in the city of Ipsy, and I'm very interested, especially how policing affects the lives of the elderly and lower income people.
Well, Michelle, you could go on and speak now. If you want to share some of those things with us now.
Oh, okay. Well, one thing I wonder is, has there been any discussion about these big issues like no chokeholds? Do we already have that legislation in place? What kinds of discussions of police behavior have already gone on? I'm a little new to this. When I worked with Black Lives Matter in 2013 and 2014, the police union was very uninterested in discussing anything at all that would change or modify the way police responded. What has happened since?
Chief, do you want to answer that?
Sure, that's a very, very general question, but I think I can get to some of the things you're asking about. Chokeholds have been banned in Michigan for over 30 years. We don't train on them. We don't teach them. We don't use them. They're considered deadly force. So in a situation where an officer would be able to use his firearm is the only time that they'd be able to use a chokehold. Duty to intervene has been a policy in the Ypsilanti Police Department for at least the last several years. So a lot of the things that you're seeing are things that we're already doing and already training on. We're kind of ahead of the curve when it comes to mental health illness training. We pledged to the IACP, International Association of Chiefs of Police, One Mind campaign, and we're only one of 6 departments in the state that's completed it. So there's a lot of things that are probably different than happened in 2013 and before, which I wasn't here for that, so I can't really address that, but I can tell you what's happened since. If you have other questions, I'd certainly address them, but that was kind
Yeah. I've talked to some officers just chatting, and many of them have never worked with Black people. Are we doing any, I don't know if you'd call it sensitivity training or whatever. Are they getting any training in learning how to deal with groups of people who've never done before?
Okay, so I don't know who you're talking to, but that would be really strange that they'd be working here because we work with the African American community every day. We have 6 African American officers, which they would have contact with all the time. We are generally, our pool of applicants is pretty diverse and from diverse areas. So I don't know anybody that hasn't worked with the Black community that works here in Ypsilanti.
Okay, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Michelle. More hands, Andrew.
Yes, there is one more hand. It's Valerie Praziara, and I do apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. I'll allow him to speak now. Just have to unmute yourself.
I got it. And that's my grandson. It's not me. I have a question about why, or what is the rationale for leaving out most of the police force from training in community policing?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
You're training 4 officers in community policing. What's the rationale for not training any of the other ones?
Okay, so let me clear that up. I didn't say that we weren't training them. Everyone is going to get some training. There'll be 4 officers dedicated to a community policing unit that is going to be specifically designed to address issues that come from the community. That doesn't mean that the rest of the department isn't following that same philosophy. It just means that we're going to dedicate personnel to addressing specific issues. Did I clear it up for you?
Well, so does that mean that the expectation is that all the officers will be conducting themselves in the same way as those 4?
I think we're getting the conduct and the assignment perhaps confused. We expect that all our officers are going to behave themselves in the appropriate way and professionally and treat everyone with dignity and respect. What we're doing is we're going to try and now disperse some of the work so that we can concentrate on certain things in a more effective way. We've been in what we call a response mode, which means that we've been going basically from one run to the next and trying to accomplish as much work as we can with a limited number of people. Our number of people over the last couple of years has increased. So we're now going to try and just take the appropriateness of the work and assign it to the people that can address it in the best way possible so we can deliver the best police service that we can. So the behaviors of the officers is not the expectation for the community policing piece that we're talking about. We expect that all our officers are going to try and solve as many problems as they can in the community. They're going to treat people with dignity and respect, and that they're going to go out there and do a professional job every day.
Another question I have is that our Washtenaw County Sheriff is an expert in these areas. Will he be working with you to help implement community policing?
So the sheriff's office does some things that we're not, they have an entire community engagement division. Director Jackson runs. And so we don't have the personnel for that. What we're trying to do is deliver better police service. Some of those things they do are more, actually, I'm not even sure how to describe it. They're not directed towards solving community problems. A lot of them are relationship issues. So one of the things that we are going to do is that we're going to have a police social worker here in the building. And some of the things that, again, are criminalized in some places, we're going to try and make it so that it's not criminalized here, and we're able to put people in places where they can actually improve their lives. There's no sense in taking someone who has a heroin addiction and putting them in a jail or in a prison. That's something that course of action. And right now, that seems to be the going trend, is that's where people are getting housed. So we're going to try and break some of that mold, and we're going to try and do some different things.
Okay. Are you aware of how they implemented community policing in Baltimore? I hear that has been quite a successful program.
Right. So we've looked at a lot of different models, and again, we're talking. Baltimore is a huge city with a ton of people and a large police department. We're talking about what we think can work best here with our small police force within our our 4 square miles, and how we can address things better here.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't our force participate in trainings with the county on certain policing issues?
Sure, we've done a lot of different training with the county, with Eastern as well. Some of the training that we do is actually county-wide. And so Washtenaw County is a little different than some other counties. There are fewer actual police agencies, so the coordination's much better. And we obviously have an open line of communication. We work with the sheriff's department all the time on a lot of different things. Every summer we have somebody that gets assigned to one of their units so that we can share information and work together. The men and women on the street work together with each other all the time, backing each other up. So it's, we're very familiar with the sheriff's office and the things that they do.
Okay, Mayor, the next individual with their hand up is John Hollingsworth. I'll allow them to speak now.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I hear you, John, yes.
Okay, thank you. In regards to your treatment of younger people that may have confrontations, say, between K and 18, K through 12, are they regarded as minors until they're over 18 or over? Are there things that they can do to keep them just going straight to jail? Are there any arbitration between whatever prosecution might be available? Are they treated more like adults, or is there some intercession in their behalf? And also, I would ask about the security of these elections that are in the jurisdiction too. Are they coordinated with other law enforcement? I was at one meeting with a group and they mentioned, I think it was ICPJ, and they mentioned some rules some things that were going on where they're doing elections, that they did have emergency lines open and stuff. I just wondered, was it at all of them or just those in certain areas?
Chief, would you want to talk about, and maybe city manager chime in on what the plans are to keep the polls safe on November the 3rd?
I
Sure.
think clerk would be probably the one to talk about how he's coordinated things with the police department.
Okay.
So we've coordinated with the EMU Police Department, at least for the two polling locations on Eastern's campus. I have worked with our chief and the administrative lieutenant. The police chief has added additional staff to not necessarily be posted there, but just to be on hand to get to those locations as quickly as possible if needed. I don't know if Chief DeGiusti would like to add any more.
Oh, that's about right, Andrew. We're not going to post people right at the polls because that could send a different message as well. But we'll be very close and we'll be monitoring. So we don't anticipate any issues. We're still waiting to see what is going to come of the no open carry that the Secretary of State has put out as a rule, and I believe is being challenged in the court. So we're waiting for the decision on that. And when we get that decision, we'll decide how we're going to enforce that as well through the clerk's office. In regards to your comments about juveniles, people are considered a juvenile until they're 17 years of age in the state of Michigan. And so just a word on some of the diversion things that you were talking about. Come January, we're going to have a brand new prosecutor. We've been having some conversations with him. He has some different ideas on things that have happened in the past. I haven't specifically spoke to him about his thoughts on the juvenile justice system, but I would assume that they're pretty close to his philosophy on other things. So I think you'll probably see some changes there. But I just don't know what they're going to be. So I really couldn't tell you if there's going to be an opportunity for some diversion. On the other hand, some officers within the department have taken an interest in the youth in the community. They have some relationships with some of the youth groups like Dedicated to Make a Change. I think they're called Educate Youth now. Also with Mentor to Youth, Emmanuel's program over at Park Ridge. So we've done some things with the youth already, and we're anticipating that one of the 4 people that's going to be assigned to the cop crew will have a concentration in working on some youth issues. If that answers your question, sir.
Yes, also just one more question. In regards to after the elections, when the few days following or even on the election day, they're going to be, there's been some threats, possible violence. We prepared to address that law enforcement wise in the communities?
We haven't gotten any intelligence that there's going to be any violence here. There may be some protesting. We've dealt with that over the summer.
Right.
And our philosophy here is
Right.
that they have a right, First Amendment right to protest, and so long as they're peaceful, we're going to facilitate that. We've blocked traffic, we've closed roads, we've done
Okay, but you
all kinds of things to help that out. So that's how we're going to plan on handling it going forward as well.
So you've had no threats of violence toward anything right now?
Not within the city, no.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Chief and Manager McMullen. Okay. Any other hands, Andrew?
Yes, Mayor. Valerie Brown Tucson, I'll allow them to speak now. You'll need to unmute yourself, please.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Community policing. I want everyone to understand that community policing is an ongoing process. There's no way that the chief can put all the mechanisms that it takes to make community policing effective. He can't lay all that stuff on the line tonight. He can't put it on the table because as I said, it's an ongoing process. And I heard someone say that Jerry Clayton was an expert in community policing. Well, I beg to differ in Jerry Clayton being an expert in community policing. Simply because I would rather Jerry be an expert in his hiring his officers than being an expert in community policing. Because if he was an expert in hiring his officers, we would not have the news reports that one of his deputies is an accused rapist. So I would rather him put his time in the hiring process. And again, I do not want the Washtenaw County Sheriff Department coming into my city to tell my chief how to do anything, because I think that Chief Jaguski has all the knowledge that it takes to make our community safe and sound. And we do not need to micro manage him. It was to my understanding that Jerry Clayton was supposed to be invited into my city to tell my chief how to do community policing. Lois, I do not ever want you to do that again. I do not ever want you to undermine the police chief to bring somebody else into town to try to tell him how to do his job. That's very disrespectful, and you should not be like that. Because if you want a great process of community policing, what you have to do, you have to get out there and get involved yourself with the policeman. You see me, I am not in no fashion concerned about whether or not we're gonna have fatalities in the city of Ypsilanti as it pertains to our policemen choke holding somebody and killing somebody. I am no ways nervous about that, because you know why? Because you have to have conversations with the policeman. You have to let the policeman know what you want, and the policeman has to let you know what they want. And when you can cross that bridge together, you ain't got to worry about all this other mess that's happening in other cities. Because yeah, it's gonna happen in other cities, because you know what? There's no connection with the police and the people. You in the city of Ypsilanti, you'll find very few people that's connected with the police. There are very few people connected with the police, because they go on the assumption all the police are just alike, which is not true. It's just like people say all the preachers are just alike. You got some no good preachers and worth two hoots and torment, and then you got some good preachers, and you likewise policemen. But you know what? You have to connect yourself with them. Show them yourself. Show them that you're not a double-minded person. You know, the Bible talks about a double-minded person is unstable in all their ways. When you find somebody talking off of both sides of their neck, that's a very unstable person. And we don't need those kind of people in my city. I want them out of here. I don't care if it's the mayor. I don't care if it's the council folks. I don't care who it is. Because if you want a cooperative city, you got to have cooperative people that supposedly be running your city. The chief, Jaguski, you're doing a good job in the city of Ypsilanti. You bought the city of Ypsilanti out of a terrible pit. I know it was in a pit. Since 1986, I followed it. And I know how bad it was, and I know how good it is now. Why? Because I get myself involved with the police. I get myself involved with the community. How is the police treating you? How is the police doing you? That's what you have to do if you want community and a great community policing. And you cannot be double-minded. Mayor, you cannot be double-minded in your sayings and your doings. You have to treat the chief just like he's the chief. You have to treat the city manager just like she's the city manager. You cannot think 1 second that you have power over these folks, because you don't. You just are one vote on that council, and you really have no full strength behind you on that council to do anything effectively. So what you have to do, buckle yourself down and do like the Bible says. Humble yourself. Listen to me, Lois. You the preacher, I'm talking to you. Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, that he might exalt you in due time. Because if you exalt yourself, you gonna fall. You're gonna be, you end up being just like Jezebel. You know, when Jezebel fell out that window, and then the king said, well, I'm gonna give her a decent burial. When he decided to give Jezebel a decent burial, the dogs had ate her flesh up already. So you just wait on the Lord. You hear? You wait on him. Because, you know, a lot of times we tell a lot of tales on God. And the only reason we do that because he don't knock our brains out right now. But we got to pay for it later on. Chief, keep on doing what you're doing, because you're doing a great job. And if you wasn't doing a great job, you would hear from Lee Tucson. I'm not the boss of the city, but I tell you one thing, I be out there in the city doing what I'm supposed to do as a resident in the city of Ypsilanti. This is why, and I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired. I'm an old man now. I'm an old man. I started out as a young man, but I'm an old man. And what we old folks need to do, get somewhere and sit our old tails down and let these young folks take over, because their mind is more mastered than ours. They're more astute of what's going on than we are. And we as old, broke down folks, what we need to do is just sit back and mentor them, give them to know how to go, give them information that we have, that they might be productive in what they're doing. Chief, keep on doing what you're doing. Keep Jared Clayton out of your business. Don't let Jared Clayton come in your city telling you nothing, because he do not know no more than you. How can the sheriff department come in and tell my city anything when the back door of the sheriff department is dirty, when the front door of the sheriff department is dirty? Can't do it. And you don't have to say thanks, Lois. I know you ain't gonna say thanks because you don't like what I just said, but don't say thanks at all.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Tucson. Always appreciate hearing from you. Clerk, is there any other hands up? Hello.
Sorry, that was the last hand up in the list of attendees.
Okay. All right, I want to extend another thank you to everyone, and I mean everyone, that had questions or comments. And Chief, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I would just say this, sometimes people don't want to come forward and say things in front of other people. I'm here 60 plus hours a week. Pick up the phone, give me a call. If you have suggestions, you want to talk about something. If you don't want to talk to me, call Lieutenant Yukis, stop an officer on the street. Any suggestions you have or things that you want from the police department, we're more than anxious to hear about them. Again, some people are a little shy in public. If that's the case, we can certainly have a private conversation.
I'd like to add that we also have the YPAC to also serve in that as the in mediator, or the person in between, if you don't want to go like right to the police department. The chairperson, Mr. Fanton, Mr. Herman, also was on the last town hall and kind of pledged to actually get out in the community a little bit to let people know that they are also there. So we're trying to put some tools in place that can satisfy all of our citizens. Some will feel comfortable actually coming to the police chief, but some may not. So they need to know that we do have the Police Advisory Commission in place if they would like to register, not necessarily a complaint, but it could be a concern. It could actually be a suggestion or a recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
I would just,
Clerk, did you have anything that you, I'm hearing a voice that you closed?
I do not, Mayor, but Commissioner Fonto would like to add something.
I would just like to dovetail into the remarks that our city manager shared. And the chief and I have met, weather obviously permitting, some weeks ago and talked with two members of the local community that had concerns. We set up chairs on the lawn of the police department. And just taking a strand from what our city manager shared, that's open to not only folks that want to address the YPAC meetings. We meet every month, but even if somebody is perhaps a little bit shy, a little bit uncertain, and would like to talk to the chief or myself as chair of the YPAC, the Ypsilanti Police Advisory Commission, we certainly will make room in our schedule to accommodate that individual or those individuals. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I was going to say that to Miss Barney. Michelle, really appreciate your comments and your interest when you were asking. And I'm not sure what committee you were speaking of. But I do want to make an invitation, extend you an invitation to the YPAC meetings, and they are the fourth Thursday of every month. Is it the fourth Thursday or the third Thursday, clerk?
YPAC meets on the fourth Thursday of the month, Mayor.
The fourth Thursday, that's what I thought. So Michelle, Ms. Barney, if you're interested in that, and you can find the link how to get into those Zoom meetings on the city's website, but you might be interested in attending those. Right now, that committee, that commission has no openings. It is full, but if you would be interested, please tune in the third Thursday of every month. Okay. All right. Do we have anyone else in the audience that would like to say anything after you've had a few minutes to kind of breathe and think about it?
Mayor, currently no one has their hand raised.
Okay, very good. Okay, if no one else has anything, and if all minds are clear.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
Mayor. Someone did just raise their hand. Steve Pierce, I'll allow them to speak now.
Okay, please. Hello, Mr. Pierce. Is he muted?
No, he is unmuted, but I'm not able to hear anything.
We can't hear him. Is he hearing us?
Madam Mayor, you asked me to join this evening, and so I just wanted to say that I was here, and I don't know if there was anything that you wanted me to add, but I just wanted to let you know that I was here for the meeting.
Okay, well, I'm glad you were here. Thank you. No, with you being out of the city, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware, and I know that you and the Historic South Side was very, very instrumental in the community policing process and program from before. So I wanted, and I do miss Mr. Lawrence, because I know he was also very, very, very involved. And played a big, the Historic South Side played a big part in helping the city overcome that tremendous problem of prostitution that we had going on back then. So I just wanted you to be aware of the meeting tonight, and if you had anything that you would like to, to add, that was why. And not being here in the city, I'm not sure how much you're keeping up with the calendar. That was the main thing. So thank you for joining in.
Oh, and I'm back in the city. I finally escaped my COVID quarantine in Oklahoma, so I've been back since August.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, thank
Okay,
you.
very
Thank you for
good.
inviting me.
You're welcome. No problem. Thanks for coming. Okay. All right. Any other hands?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Well, seeing no other hands, and if no one else has any comments, then we can bring this meeting, a very, very short town hall, to a close. So I want to thank everyone for coming. Thank the chief for laying out his program, and thanks the city manager, and thanks to all those that spoke out and those that just attended. So appreciate you all. Everyone stay safe and stay well. Please, if you have not voted, please make sure that you vote. You can vote at City Hall. You can, if you have an absentee ballot, you can drop it in the vote boxes, the ballot boxes that are around town. One is outside of City Hall. Plus, we also have the mail slot there into City Hall directly. There is a ballot box at Park Ridge Center, and there's also one on Eastern's campus in the circle leading to the student union. So please, voting is a right and voting is a responsibility. Voting is the only way that we have of saying who we want to have authority over our lives for the next 2, 4, 6 years, because of however long the term might be. So I do encourage everyone to vote and to stay safe, stay well. COVID is not gone. It's still lurking around, and it'll be here seemingly for a while. So let's follow the rules that the CDC and the MDHHS and the Washtenaw County Public Health Department and the governor have set to keep us safe. So thank you, and with that, we'll say good night.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Have a good night.
Good night.